So thank you very much for joining us today on our final day of HEPFest. It's great to see so many of you here. Really excited to do this session. So today's session is the benefits of higher education, and this is part of HEPFest delivered by HEP and HEPC, our partners.
Everybody quiet now, please.
If I can just make sure that everybody's on mute, and welcome to everybody that's just joined us. We are recording this session. HEPFest is a week-long online festival for students, learners, parents, carers, teachers and advisors. And so far it's been a really, really good week. So we're really excited for our final day. And HEP is a partnership between the University of Sheffield and Sheffield Hallam University, which aims to encourage more young people and adults to consider higher education opportunities. With the UniConnect programme HEPC, some of which you'll probably have been to this week within HEPFest. So we'd like to thank you all very much for coming today. And it's great to see some people still joining the session, so welcome to you. So just to introduce myself, my name's Savannah and I work for HEP as an engagement assistant, and we're really lucky today to have two students who are currently university students in Sheffield who can share their experiences with us, and you can ask them questions as well. So the students we have with us today have really different routes into education and really different backgrounds. So that's going to give a really good insight into different kind of pathways that people can take. So I'll let Jess introduce herself first. If you can tell us where you're from, what you study, and a little bit about you.
Hi everyone, good morning. I'm Jess and I'm from near Rotherham. I study at the University of Sheffield and I do a degree in politics and philosophy, and I'm currently in my third year.
Lovely, thank you very much. So we've got quite local, not quite Sheffield, but quite local with Jess, brilliant, from the University of Sheffield. And we have Oyetola here. Can you introduce yourself, Oyetola?
Hello everyone, my name is Oyetola Deyeri and I'm from Nigeria, currently studying in Sheffield Hallam University. I'm a master's student studying human resource management. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you both. So you can see there we've got two students from both our partner universities who've come from really different backgrounds, so we're going to have really different experiences. So today's going to be very useful in terms of asking questions from both perspectives, so we'll make sure to make the most of that. So I've already briefly introduced HEP, and we know that we're in HEPFest, but who are HEP? So we are the Higher Education Progression Partnership. And obviously progression means going up. So we work to give people information and provide impartial information to empower people to make decisions about higher education and gaining higher level skills. So we're not here to lecture you on what to do. We don't know you and we're not planning to do that, but we're just here to give you as much information as possible for you to make your own decisions. And I can see we've got loads of schools in here today, so you probably can see where you're from on that map. And we come in person. You might have already met us. You might have even met our student ambassadors. And we deliver these kind of talks and assemblies. So if we haven't seen you already, we'll definitely see you soon. So coming up today in this session, we're going to talk about what is higher education. We've already mentioned it probably about 5 or 6 times, and you might not know what it is, or you might have heard of it, and either one is fine. Why go to higher education? Everybody is going to have different reasons for choosing to go or choosing not to go, and they're completely fine. We'll also hear from both our student ambassadors about why they've chosen to go to higher education, because I think I know why they've chosen, but I could be wrong. And they actually have quite different reasons, but both reasons are completely fine. And then we're going to look at, this is quite a popular part of this presentation, how is higher education different to school? So a lot of people aren't sure about the differences, and I was exactly the same, and I'll talk about that later. But how is it different to school, and what might that mean for you? So when we're thinking about what is higher education, Jess, did you know what higher education was when you were in year 7?
No, I had no idea.
No idea at all? No, okay, there we go. So no idea. So if you're sitting there thinking, I don't know what you're talking about, you're not going to be the only person. There's going to be other people around in your classroom or wherever you are at the moment who also have no idea what we're talking about. So we'll start thinking about these questions. Where could you go? Are you limited to your local area? How old do you have to be? And what might you do there? Oyetola, what was your experience like in school in Nigeria? Did people, have conversations about higher education?
Yes, back in Nigeria, people have conversation about higher education. So before you can proceed to higher education in Nigeria, you have to have your secondary certificate. I think That is from the age of 16 to 18. Then you can proceed to higher education back in Nigeria. So it's a thing people actually converse about, because in Nigeria, having a higher education is a platform or a foundation for you to get a better life. So in order to have a better life, in order to be known in the society, you just have to go for higher education.
Yeah, so it's kind of part of conversations in schools in different countries, but sometimes we find that in the UK, people don't have those conversations very early. So if you are in year 7, 8, 9, 10, you might not have even, been talking about it. And I know I didn't have many conversations at school about it. Jess has been shaking her head. So sometimes it's not that, talked about. So it's normal not to really understand what it might mean. So what is higher education? Put simply, it's when you work towards getting a qualification after you're 18 years old. So your qualification at school is your GCSE, that's what you'll do exams and coursework for, and then you'll leave with the qualification of a GCSE. But at higher education, it's called a degree. So this qualification, the degree, can be gained from university. I went to university. Jess, do you go to a university?
Yep, I go to university.
You go to university. Oyetola, do you go to university?
Yes, I went to university.
Yeah, so we all go to university or went to university. So that's kind of the most common and the one that most people have heard of. But actually, you can go to certain colleges as well. So you don't have to go really far away to a big, new, kind of scary and daunting place. If you want to stay with something a bit smaller, more familiar, maybe you choose college after school and you think, I quite like it here, I'm going to stay here. That's completely fine. You can still gain that qualification from there. And then degree apprenticeships. So you might have heard of degree apprenticeships. I'm sure some of you have, but you definitely probably have heard of apprenticeships. So an apprenticeship is when you work part-time, getting paid work experience, and you spend half your time studying at college. So you're blending your week. But a degree apprenticeship is higher level. So we've said a degree is that higher level qualification. Now a degree apprenticeship is splitting your time between getting that higher qualification through study, whether that's at a university or certain colleges, and paid work experience. So it's a really, really good way to blend work experience, which is paid, so bonus, and also getting that hands-on experience while studying and still gaining that qualification. So you don't have to pick one or the other, you can blend the two. Jess, we've talked about this before when we've been having a coffee. Had you heard of degree apprenticeships when you were choosing what to do?
No, I'd never heard of them, and I kind of wish I had, because I would have definitely looked into it.
Yeah, me too. Like I really enjoyed working, in sixth form when I was doing my A-levels, loved having a part-time job. And actually, I think if I'd have known I could have blended the two, maybe I would have looked into it a bit more. So the main thing to get from today's session is that higher education is there for everyone. So everyone that's watching this today has the option to go. There's loads of different routes you can go down. I mean, here we've got 3 people and all of us have different experiences of higher education. And it is an option for you, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the right option for you. So always think about what's best for you. And just as a bit of information, there are currently 395 higher education providers. So that means universities or certain colleges across the UK. So when you're thinking about your post-16 options, if you go to sixth form or college, you're going to have a few options, aren't you? Because you need to travel there, you're not going to move out probably at that stage. And when you're picking your secondary school, you've got even less options. But at this stage, you can go to nearly 400 different places. So I studied in Scotland, in Edinburgh, which is right up, and you can study all the way down to kind of Brighton area, anywhere in the UK. So really, really good amount of options there. And also there's over 50,000 courses to choose from. So just take a minute to take that in, 50,000. So when you either have made your choices for GCSEs or you're talking about them now, or maybe your deadline's soon, or it's going to be in a few years, you're going to have a few choices depending on your pathways. And that could be maybe 2 or 3, or you have to pick a science, that kind of thing. But at this stage, you have 50,000 courses, and there are some really, really unusual courses to choose from. So, for example, down in Cornwall, you can study surf science. Now, it kind of gives away what that is, but it's the science behind surfing, about waves and surfboards. You definitely can't do that at school, so you're getting these more options that you can choose from. So now we're going to speak to the student ambassadors about their reasons for going to higher education. I think I know what both of them are, but let's see if I've got it right. So we've got some really good examples here of studying a subject in more detail. So if you like something in school or your post-16 study and you think, I really like this, like my colleague Georgie, she studied psychology at sixth form and she thought, this is great. I really, really love this so much. So she dropped everything else that she was studying when she went to university in Lincoln, and she studied just psychology because she loved it, you know, and she really enjoyed that, to allow you to progress onto a specific career. So if you wanted to be a teacher or a doctor or a nurse, you have to have this qualification. You don't have a choice. So if you want to be a teacher and you say, I'm not going to higher education, you can't be a teacher. Okay, so it's really important to think about that. And then to study a new subject. I studied a new subject. I did business management with marketing. Just thought it looked really cool, really interesting, really relevant, and I really enjoyed it, even though I'd never even looked at that kind of thing before. And then the bottom ones are a little bit less academic and job driven. So we have to have fun. That might seem like, surely that's not a reason, but loads of people go just to have fun and have the experience. And our student ambassadors, can you give me a nod if you have fun at higher education? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. It's a really good social time, isn't it? Perfect. Okay, so we've also got gain new skills and experiences. So new skills is quite obvious when you're at education anywhere, you're learning, you're taking information in, and you're going to get skills with that, whether they're specific to the course subject or if they're kind of skills that you learn on the side. Then we've also got experiences, and the picture kind of gives it away with the aeroplane. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. And then we've got improved job prospects. So job prospects are your options for different jobs that you can do in the future. So if you're improving them, you're giving yourself more job options and more options for things that you can do that you'll probably enjoy. And then you can also see the money sign there. So we'll also talk about that. So Jess, what was your main, or if you had a few, what were your main reasons for choosing to go, and has it kind of lived up to that expectation?
So I would say I was similar to Georgie in the fact that I also wanted to kind of study a new subject. So I'd done philosophy before at A level, but I'd never ever studied politics before. So it was a good chance to finally study something that I was really interested in outside of school. And then I'd also say that at school I was very into like essay writing, wasn't like fab at hands-on lessons. So for me, university and doing the course that I did progressed from what I was good at. I don't think I'd have been too good at an apprenticeship, although I have been looking at what's on offer at the moment, and because I want to go into the civil service, there are civil service apprenticeships that you can do as soon as you leave school. So maybe I could have done that, but also the fact that I like to write, 3 more years of education just felt right to me.
And that's what's really interesting when you hear from different people, is that, you know, some people really, really like exams. I'm one of those people. People think it's quite strange, but I'm just better under pressure. And if I get given too long to do something like an essay, I'll overthink it and I'll start making mistakes. And whereas for you, Jess, it's perfect to go into something that's essay based. And like you said, you'd maybe back then that job you looked at with the apprenticeship with the government might not have been available back then, because there's always more things being added in terms of options for people. And Oyetola, what were your main reasons?
All right, so I have different reasons for wanting to go to higher education, but I think my main reason is just to earn more money. So having known that going to higher education is going to help me to earn more, because employers pay for your skills, your qualifications, and your professions. So I have no choice than to go to higher education because I needed more money to enjoy life. So that's the option.
Well, they say money doesn't buy you happiness, but it does buy you Alton Towers tickets and theme park tickets. So I don't know. Yeah, really, really great examples there, because they're so different. You know, one's kind of career focused, whereas one's more academic, but both of them are fine. And whoever you're sat with at the moment, whatever decision they make, whether it is higher education, it isn't higher education, it's going to be for different reasons, because people have different priorities and people have different circumstances as well. So my top reasons, you can see mine are quite experience-based. Mine's not very academic, actually. But mine was to live in the capital city of Scotland. So in the bottom right corner, you can see that picture. It's my favourite road in the whole world. And I just really liked the kind of the Gothic architecture and thought, I really want to live there. You know, even though it's dark and rainy and windy, it quite suits it. And then the other reason was to study abroad in Australia. I think you can guess which pictures are from when I was living in Australia. If you have a look at those, you can see the palm trees and the sun kind of give it away. And then my other reason was to live with friends in shared houses. So at the top, you can see a picture of all these people, all my friends at a party, and we all live together. And it's kind of like a giant sleepover, which obviously comes with its problems sometimes, but it can be a really good experience. Jess, you did your first, you're doing your first degree now in the UK. What did you do in terms of, did you live with people? Did you stay at home? How did you find that?
Yeah, so I moved from Rotherham into Sheffield, so like 20-25 minute car journey, and I lived with 10 people in my first year in halls of residence, and now I've lived with 8 people for the past 2 years in a house. So yeah.
How is it to live with people? Are you friends, or do you just not talk to each other?
I love it. I don't live with the people that I lived with in first year because I made different friends outside of my flat in first year, but I do still meet up with my first year flatmates. But I do love it because, like you said, it is like a giant sleepover. It's like takeaways, movies all the time.
Yeah, and yeah, sometimes you look in the living room and you're like, there's at least 500 pizza boxes in here. We need to wrap that up. Yeah, definitely. Oyetola, when you did your first degree, because now you're doing a master's, which is the next degree you can do after your first one, and you studied that in Nigeria. Did you stay home? Did you move out?
I moved out and I lived with friends. I make new friends and it's helped me to have connection, which I still keep up to now. So it's actually fun staying with friends. You tend to meet new people every day. You share new idea. You know about new cultures. You know about how things are being done from different parts of the country or different parts of the states. Then you even learn about new foods because I tend to meet people from different parts of the country and I tend to eat different delicacy, learn some few languages. It's fun living with people actually.
Yeah, it definitely is fun living with people. And I was the same. In my first year, I lived with a guy from Bulgaria and he used to make us some dishes and some food that I'd never had before. And I mean, I won't ever complain about being given food. Don't know about anybody else. But yeah, it can be really good, like you say, to get experience and also sharing things. Because obviously, if you do go to higher education and you do choose to move out, it's really nice to be in a group of people who are all experiencing the same thing. So on your first day, you might be like, oh God, right, play it cool, I'm not nervous, but everyone's feeling exactly the same. So everyone's moving in kind of like, oh, what if they don't like me? How am I going to make any friends? But everyone's having the same experience. So it's once you've created that kind of community, it really does feel that way. So we're going to look now at some of the different benefits. We're going to look at the financial benefits, which Oyetola talked about in terms of getting jobs. We're going to look at the academic benefits, which Jess touched on in terms of what she really liked about going into higher education. Then we're going to look at career benefits, which again, Oyetola, I think that's one of your main ones because it's kind of job driven and thinking about what job you might want to do and how to better yourself. Then we're going to look at the experience side of things, which was more my reason. So firstly, we'll look at the financial benefits. So you can make more money. It is that simple. This is because you're more likely to be promoted, which means getting a higher level role in the same company. So maybe your boss says like, you're doing really well. Did you go to university? You can say, oh, yes, I did. And I got these skills, you know, or did you do higher education? Yes, I did. And, you know, I did X, Y, Z. And you might be more likely to be promoted, even if the job doesn't require a degree. So it's really important to remember that even jobs that don't require a degree, you're more likely to get them if you have a higher qualification. And also in terms of looking at money again, graduates, so that's somebody that went to higher education and finished and got that qualification, earn £100,000 more over their lifetime than non-graduates on average. Can my student ambassadors raise their hand if they would like to earn £100,000 more over their lifetime? Okay, there we go. Well, that tells it, doesn't it? Even if you're not money driven, that is really good. And that's because you're giving yourself more options. And the more options you have, the more likely you are to go into a higher level role. So it's just really giving yourself those options and not cutting them off. So academic benefits. So take control of your studies. School's really important. Your GCSEs are really, really important to do the very, very, very best you can. But my personal experience in school, I didn't get on with it. I was not very engaged, quite naughty. Any subject that I didn't do well in, I'd act up in because I didn't like the fact I wasn't doing well. But it's really different at higher education, and it really does change as you progress through the different stages. So you can choose what to study, completely what to study. If you've never even looked at, fashion, go and study fashion if that's what you want to do. You can do things like that. And there's state-of-the-art facilities. So at Oyatola's University, if you're studying games design, so if you like video games and you think, I could make them, I'd love to make them, you can study that at Sheffield Hallam University. And one of the rooms that you'll do your classes in is a PlayStation lab. So just imagine that you're looking at your timetable, and instead of saying room 201, your class is in a PlayStation lab. And these kind of facilities are amazing that are provided by higher education providers. And then we've got academic support and personal tutor and learning from subject specialists. So Oyatola, being an international student, have you had support from a personal tutor, or do you have access to kind of support while you're here?
Yes. So in Sheffield Hallam, as an international student, we are entitled to 3 support system. That is academic support. We have your employability, and we have for your personal support as regard your well-being. So the academic support is actually there to support in the areas of your studies where you're missing it or you are not cleared, most especially in the area of plagiarism or referencing, because that is really a big deal in higher education. It's something that you don't have to joke with. So the academic support is there to give you your full support. Having known that as an international student, it's probably we are not used to this system. So coming in here, it's a different system, and we need a background, someone to do a follow-up for us. Then as regards the employability, someone who is preparing us ahead of our career, what will happen after our studies, after school. How do you get employed? How do you write your CV? And how do you get prepared for interview? Then for well-being, it has been from the beginning since I got to UK last year. They've actually helped in different way, because I could remember I had an issue with accommodation, and it was my my well-being support that actually helped out and provide a 10 days free accommodation for me as an international student, with some household utensils, some provisions to keep myself for the meantime before I get a place.
Oh, well, that's really, really, really great to hear, actually. So we've got academic support and personal tutor there, but actually there's more support. So there's employability, which is great, and that is offered at most, if not all, higher education providers. So it's really, really good to hear that as an international student, that's also been available for you. Jess, what about you? Have you found anything different being a home student, being a UK student? Do you also get support?
Yeah, so we get a lot of support as well. It was this week I went to a talk about how to write a CV. Next week I've got a talk about how to do good in an interview. I have my personal tutor that I can go to all the time with any problems, and all my other tutors for my modules are always there to help. And there's also a department that helps you to write essays. So when you come to university, writing essays isn't the same as writing essays at school, and I've really struggled with it. But I've been going to the support for that, and I've been having one-to-one meetings, and they've taught me how to write a proper university essay. So yeah, there's plenty of support at university.
Yeah, and that's the thing as well. People sometimes think it's going to be exactly the same at school, but we're going to cover why it's different to school. But actually, there are some differences, and sometimes you do need that support. You are expected to be more independent because you're an adult and you're choosing to be there. So it's different to school in that sense, but the similarity is you still receive that support. And also here we've got learning from subject specialists. So the teachers at higher education are specialising in that subject. So they just do that. They don't teach multiple subjects, they only teach that, and often they're really passionate about it, and you can kind of see it in their teaching, because every time you go to a lecture, which is like a big room of hundreds of students and then one teacher at the front and you're taking notes, they're like this, they're animated, they're asking questions, and it's a really nice environment to be in, that everybody in that room wants to be there and has made a decision to be there. Not like in my maths class at GCSE, for example, I'd just be at the back with my feet up, you know, being rude basically to my other classmates who couldn't focus, but also to my teacher. There's none of that, because everyone's choosing to be there. And also, you don't have to be there. So if you didn't want to go to your class, as long as you catch up, you don't have to go. So it's a really much nicer environment in terms of studying something you're interested in. Okay, so career benefits. So thinking about your future, 25% of jobs are only for graduates. So we said earlier, graduate is somebody who's been to higher education and then has finished and got the qualification. So 25% is quite a lot. And we always say, if I had a pizza and Oyetola took a quarter of it, I'm not going to be happy, because she's taken a quarter of my pizza. I paid for that pizza. I can eat a full pizza, you know, don't take a quarter of it. You don't want to cut a quarter of the job market in the whole of the UK off from yourself. So you really want to give yourself as many options as possible. And the more qualified you are, so the higher qualifications you have, the more options you have to do something that you actually enjoy and that you're actually interested in. And then we've already said here, you're more likely to be employed and promoted, so going into higher level roles within your job. And getting that specialist knowledge. So we said the teachers are specialists in that subject, and you can, you know, get it into your brain. You're getting all of that from them. And then we've got work placements. So these are really, really interesting. It's like work experience at school. So some schools offer work experience maybe a few days or a week or 2 weeks. Some schools don't offer that, but it's when you go and do a job for a period of time to kind of trial it out and gain experience. But in higher education, that can be even as long as a year. And you're not just making cups of tea and kind of running around printing stuff for people. You are doing the job. So in the picture there, you can see those people stood around on some kind of construction site. So that could be somebody who was studying engineering, and they will go and work as a junior engineer for that whole period. So then when they're finished, not only do they have the qualification, but they've got a year of experience as part of their course. Really interesting thing to think about when you're thinking about maybe potential jobs for the future. Okay, we've got the experience benefits of higher education. So lovely Oyetola that we have here is from Nigeria. She's in the UK studying here. So as a UK student, you are meeting people like Oyetola in higher education who have come to the UK to study as international students. And it's a really, really great when you first go to your first class to see where everybody's from, and you think, wow, all these people have come to this city to study this subject, just like I have come from the same country, but we've all come to do the same thing. So Oyetola, are you the only person that's an international student at Hallam, or are there other people from other countries?
No, there are other people from other countries. We have like people from 8 different countries in my department.
Okay, so it's a pretty international department.
Yes.
Yeah, nice. I like it. I like it worldwide. And what about you, Jess? Are there people on your course that have come from all over the world, or maybe that you lived with in your student halls?
Not that I live with, but in philosophy, there's lots and lots of international students, and it is really good to hear their perception of philosophy. They always come up with like really, really cool ideas. So yeah, I definitely interact with lots of international students on my course as well.
Yeah, and that experience of kind of getting people's, you know, different perspectives from different cultures is amazing. And it's really nice to kind of have that community that's so widespread. So we've got there as well, live in a new place or stay at home. We've talked a lot about moving out, and that we all did that. We really enjoyed it. But loads of people choose to stay with where they live at the moment. So that might be with your parents, carers, family members. And, you know, that is an option for people if your circumstances allow it. And loads of people choose to do that. We have quite a few student ambassadors who live at home and said, it's easy. I wanted to save money. You know, I didn't really want to move out. I'm quite comfortable. I get on with my parents or carers. You know, so those options are always there for you. And then we've got study abroad. So I've already told you, and you've seen those pictures of sunshine and palm trees. Studying abroad isn't just for language students. Okay, so I always thought that if I wanted to do study abroad, I'd need to be studying French and go to France, or Spanish and go to Spain, but that's not the case. So just like some courses offer work placement, some courses will give you the choice between a work placement and study abroad. I chose study abroad because I thought, well, why not? And really, really enjoyed it. And then we've also got joint societies, which are clubs, really, really big clubs with like hundreds of students in, and also sports and volunteering. Jess, are you a member of any societies, or have you done any volunteering? Can you tell us about that at Sheffield University?
Yeah, I'm part of the Philosophy Society and the Politics Society. So you do have sites that are connected to your course that are student-led, and they'll arrange stuff like discussions, like philosophy on a Thursday. They discuss philosophy in the pub, so you get a pint, discuss strange things, and politics run stuff like the new politics newspaper that you can be part of, quiz nights. And then I also am part of a volunteering society for philosophy, where we go and teach people philosophy who don't normally get the chance to learn about it. So like in homeless shelters and rehabilitation centres. So yeah, you've got your ones connected to your courses, you've got your sports ones, and then you can also have your volunteering ones.
Yeah, so there's loads of different ones, and I think there's a few hundred, like 350 maybe, at these universities. But there's also societies for kind of like identity groups, religious groups, sports. If you really like cake, you can go to the Cake Society. If you really like pizza, you can go to the Pizza Society. There's kind of anything you can think of, and they're run by students. So really, really exciting kind of opportunity to meet those new people. And we've talked about having that sense of community and learning from different people. But what a great way to do it than to join a club and go to quiz nights with a brand new bunch of people, even if probably it's a bit daunting the first time walking in. I know I'd find it a bit daunting anyway. Oyetola, I know you haven't been in Sheffield for very long, so maybe you've not quite had the chance to join a society, but what about at Sheffield Hallam? Are there societies there that you're aware of?
Yeah, there are several societies. So presently, I'm in the Human Resource Society as a student member, because I'm actually studying Human Resource Management. So it helps me to meet some managers that are practicing already, because they bring in practicing managers to give us an insight of what is expected of us at the workplace. So it's actually a fun gathering whenever we meet.
I've never heard of something like that. Okay, I'm learning as well. Great. So yours is kind of course related, but actually meeting people from that network who are in the industry working. What a great way to kind of hear their knowledge as well. Okay, great examples from both of you there. So thank you very much. We're going to talk now about the differences between higher education and school. Now, there's loads on this slide, so prepare yourself. Some of them that are similar, homework, people don't like so much, but some of them uniform are really, really good and really exciting for a lot of students. So we'll have a look now. So we've got on the left here, we've got school, and on the right, we've got higher education. In the middle, where the circles overlap, are the things that are similar between both. So you can see in the similar parts, we've got get qualifications. So we've already talked about the qualification at school is your GCSE or maybe BTEC at GCSE level, and then the qualification at higher education is called a degree. We've got learn new things. So not only are you learning your course stuff, but Jess has even just said that when she meets people who in philosophy from other countries, she learns different things because they're from different cultures. And Oyetola, I'm sure you've learned things from being in the UK that are so different from in Nigeria. You're always taking in information just in the way that you are at school outside of your classes. You're learning how to be around people, how to deal with conflict. That continues. We've got lots of support, which we've talked about with our student ambassadors experience, making new friends. Again, we've talked about moving in with people, joining societies. So even if you didn't move out and live with people, joining societies is a great way to make loads of new friends with really similar interests. And then homework. Sorry. So yes, there is still homework. This one's not so good, is it? But it's actually really different. So you don't have kind of regular weekly homework like you do at school for each of your classes. It's just that you have to do a lot of stuff at home, but you're not in all week, which we'll talk about in a minute. Jess, what do we mean by homework at higher education? It's similar, but it's not the same, is it?
No, so it is quite different. It's more like they give you in my course anyway, they give you a paper to read, and then you will read it, make notes, and then you come to your seminar, and that's where everyone else has read the reading, hopefully, and then you all have a discussion about it. But I am doing a module at the moment where it is a bit more like homework based. Like we get a task every week, and then we present it to the class. So it's this week I've got to choose a government policy and make a poster, and I'll present the poster to the class. So there are elements where it's a bit like school, but at the same time it's not like school.
Yeah, and it's funny when you say you should do your reading and then everyone comes to a seminar, which is like a class in school with less students. And, you know, everyone should have done it. And I remember one time I just completely forgot we had some reading, and it was the most embarrassing few hours of my life because everyone was just talking and I was sat, you know, like a lemon. But no one's going to tell you off. You're not going to get detention for not doing it. You're just going to, like I did, feel like a bit of a lemon when you can't join in conversations because people care about it and people have chosen to be there. So they want to have those discussions with you and kind of sometimes even debating things that maybe you disagree with. And then we've got go on trips. So just like at school, you might go on a trip. And I went to Scarborough in year 6. There are trips offered in higher education, whether that be through societies or through your course. I didn't have any trips with my course because it was business and economics, that kind of thing. We didn't do many trips, but a girl that I lived with, one of my good friends, she was studying zoology. So she was studying the science behind animals. She loves everything to do with biology and she loves animals. She went on a 3-week trip to the jungle to study butterflies there. And that was part of her course, you know, and she got funding for it and got help to go in terms of money. So, you know, these opportunities are still there. So we've talked already about societies and where we can live. But if we look at lessons all day in school versus fewer lessons at higher education, I think that sounds pretty good for most people. So I'll tell you how many hours I had in a week. The most I ever had was being in for 2 full days, but normally I'd be in maybe 2 hours on 3 days, so a total of about 6 hours. We didn't have many contact hours at all. Oyetola, you're doing the next level of education, so you're doing a master's. Are you in every single day? Because today is a school day, so if you are, you should be in your class.
Yes, you're right. No, I'm only in for 3 days in a week. So I'm in on Mondays for 6 hours. Then my Tuesday, Wednesdays, I'm in for just 2 hours.
Okay, so 2 hours on 2 days and then 1 full day. So even at master's level, which is that higher level, you're not in all day every day. But like we've said, you've got stuff to take home and do at home, but you can do it in your free time. So it's really, really flexible. Jess, do you have a uniform at university?
Oh no.
Oh no. What kind of dress code do you have?
Anything. People rock up in anything. It's completely you express yourself, don't you, in what clothes you wear. There's absolutely no barriers on what you can wear at university. Obviously there's little barriers. There's social barriers,
but to Tesco. Yeah, exactly.
You can wear whatever.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you say about expressing yourself, because if there's kind of part of you that maybe you know you keep inside at the moment, part of your identity, one of the joys of going to higher education is kind of being able to release that and really bring your full self, which I know that some people struggle with at school. It can be not an environment that people feel completely comfortable to do that. But yeah, you can really be yourself and bring your whole identity. So we've got little choice of subjects and choose your overall subject and some modules here. So little choice of subject when we're talking about school is you have your core subjects that you have to do. Everyone in the UK has to do them. So, you know, your maths, your English and science. And then you've also got subjects that might be compulsory in your school. So some schools want you to do either history or geography. And then you can choose a language. So it depends on your school's pathway, but you don't have loads of choice. Now, choosing your GCSEs is exciting because finally you're getting a bit of ownership about what you're studying, but you still only have a few options. Whereas You might not remember how many it was at the start, but it was 50,000 choices across the UK. And then when you've chosen that subject, you can choose things called modules, which are like mini subjects or classes that you choose to take. So some of them will be compulsory, but they'll always be related to your subject. And then sometimes you can choose really unusual subjects that don't really relate. So I had the option to choose Arabic. I decided I was probably unlikely to pass. So probably wasn't a good idea if I thought I was going to fail it, because I'm not great at languages. So I chose something that I also really enjoyed, which was about global debating. And, you know, Jess said earlier about making posters and things. It's not all about writing essays and doing exams. In that, some of our assessments, so we got grades from having debates. So we stood at the front, research and have a debate. It's a really interesting way to do it. And then we've got here no cost to you, so you don't pay to go to school, but you do pay course fees to go to higher education, but you don't pay it out of your pocket. It's not coming out of your bank account, because everybody can borrow the money from the government to go. So some people think, and I was the same when I was at school, I thought that, you know, higher education, universities for rich people, it's for private schools, it's for people who are absolutely acing their GCSEs, you know, getting A stars and A's, you know, or 9s all the time. But really that's not the case. And most people that are going aren't paying it out of their pocket, because, you know, they just don't. Jess, how did you find it in terms of when you were at school? Did you think that it was kind of certain people that went to higher education?
I'd say I was a bit head in the clouds about it, but no one in my family had ever gone to university before. So everything that I learned was fresh, new. No one in my family could tell me. So yeah, I didn't really know what was happening, but but yeah, it does have an elitist status that should be scrapped. Like, you shouldn't think that it is just the elite that go to university.
Yeah, because I think a long time ago that was the case, but it's just not the case anymore. And there is the opportunity for people to go regardless of their background. So really important to remember that. And then we've got one more thing about the class differences. So we've said in a lecture, there's about, you know, 100 or more people all sat around listening to one person. And then we've said the seminars that Jess talked about bringing your notes to, and I was sat like a lemon in one of mine, and they're smaller, and that's where you kind of think about what you've talked about in the lecture, and you sit, and it's really casual. You know, you're not going to be told to be quiet. The whole point is to have conversations, you know, and to share ideas. And, you know, often you're working in groups, you might work as a full class if not many people turn up, so it can be really, really flexible and really interesting as well. So finally, weighing it up. You're going to have big decisions, you know, starting with your GCSE choices. You get to take a bit of ownership about what you're doing, and you get to shape your future. And that's what's exciting about these next stages. So no matter what year you're in, you're going to be making decisions at different stages. It might be what you do after year 11. Shall I go to college? Shall I go to sixth form? Maybe your school has a sixth form. Is it going to be easier to stay on? Do you want to do A levels? All these things, you've got to think about what's best for you and what's most important for you. So Oyetola, when you made your decision to come to the UK to study your masters, was that because of a job you wanted, or was it because of pressure? How did you make that decision?
All right, so I made a decision mainly because of the job I wanted. It wasn't a pressure at all from anyone. So I wanted to advance in my career. I needed to gain more skills and more knowledge. Then I thought of what next should I do, what course should I go for, and that is why I decided to go for human resource management. And the next thing that came to my mind was, what country do I want to achieve this degree? I already had one back in Nigeria, and I don't want to have another in Nigeria. So I started making a research on how to go about it. Then I said, okay, UK will be a best bet for me. And afterwards, I started looking for schools to apply it into, and I take into consideration the school that offers my course, the payments involved, because as an international student, it's quite different. We have to pay, and it's a whole lot. So I have to consider the payments involved. And I consider, okay, fine, the modules that is more easier for me to quickly learn and understand, being that I'm coming from a different background. So having put this into consideration, I decided that, okay, I'm coming to Sheffield Hallam to have my master's degree.
Yeah, and it's great to hear that you didn't feel that pressure, because some people really do, you know, and it is real pressure from maybe your teachers, whoever you live with at the moment, even kind of peer pressure in the sense that you think, well, if everyone else is doing it, that must be the right thing to do. Really important to think about what's most important for you at this stage. So just to summarise, before we get any questions, so as I'm summarising, think about your questions and then we'll give you a few minutes to give some feedback and some questions. If you have questions for the student ambassadors, please ask them, because, you know, as much as it's great to hear from them, if you have something specific that you're thinking, probably loads of other people in this call today have the same questions. So it'd be great to get it answered on this call. So higher education is when you work towards getting a qualification after you're 18, and that qualification is a degree, but it can be got through, you know, university, certain colleges, and degree apprenticeships where you get work experience. People choose to go to higher education for different reasons. We've seen our examples were all really different to one another. There's financial and career, which was Oyetola. There's more academic, which was Jess, and then there's more experience-based, which was me. So you can see, even with three of us, we've covered all of those in really different ways. And also higher education is different to school in many ways, except some homework. So really, really exciting kind of opportunity to look at that and how those differences might affect you. So thank you very, very much for joining us today. It's been great to see so many people coming in. And the aim of HEPFest this year has been to help learners feel more confident in making an informed choice about higher education. So we'd really like to know if this session has helped with that. And if you do want to take a few minutes to discuss in your classes or your groups or wherever you are at the moment, and if you have any comments, please do pop them in the chat. If you do have any questions, also put them in the chat and we can ask them to the student ambassadors and answer them as best we can. So thank you very much again for attending, and really, really hope you've enjoyed it. If you do have anything else that you need, our team are always available with Hepsi. So if you look at hepsi.org/chat, click, where you can chat or call on that website, and our careers team are there you know, to help you. And if you do have any questions about HEPFest or anything, pop onto our website there. There's a few more sessions today, so maybe you'll get onto them. So we do have a few questions coming in. We have year 9, we're only 14. Do we need to know what we want to do, and what if we change our minds? So I'll answer that from my perspective in year 9. In year 9, I didn't care about the future, to put it simply. I didn't look past the next day or maybe the weekend, you know, and sometimes that's because you're not engaged. Sometimes that's because you're just not sure what you want to do, and you are engaged in school, you are enjoying it, but you're just not really sure what direction it's going to go. That's completely fine. In those examples, we normally say take it step by step. So if you're choosing your GCSEs, choose things that you're interested in, choose things that you enjoy. You know, and everything else will fall into place. And what if you change your minds? Jess, what happens if in year 9 you think you want to be a teacher, and then in year 11, or even when you're 25, you decide, actually, I want to be an engineer? Well, what could happen then?
You can always go back to university, and also it's all about, if I was completely the same. Like it's only this year that I've even decided what I want to do. And if you choose a broad degree in something that you enjoy, like I've done, philosophy and politics, you're opening so many doors for yourself. So yeah, it's all about opening them doors, and you can always change your mind.
Yeah, definitely. It's never too late to change your mind. You know, people change their mind when they start courses. People, myself included, choose not to go to university and then realise, actually, all the jobs kind of require it, so maybe I should go. It's completely normal to change your mind. So yeah, don't be scared of making mistakes in terms of decision making, I think would be key. Okay, so we've got a question. What was your first car? I can't drive, so I can't answer that. So I'm gonna have to ask somebody else. Oyetola, do you have a car? No?
Oh.
No? Okay, so no. Jess?
Yeah, I have a car, but my first car cost me £200 and this car cost me £300 and it barely works. So hopefully with a degree I'll be able to get one that actually I can rely on.
Well, maybe with that £100,000, additional average over your lifetime, you'll be driving a Tesla soon. Okay, we've got another question here. Is it hard to get jobs while you're at university? Well, we're going to take an example here right now. We have 2 student ambassadors. Are you working for free today? No, they are not volunteering. So this is their part-time job, and jobs like this, which are kind of called campus jobs, so they're linked to the university or college, are normally really flexible because they absolutely understand, you know, when we speak to the 2 student ambassadors here, we know that their priority is their studying, and if they can't do a certain day because they have classes, completely fine. Only do days that you can do. But also things like retail, working in shops, working in cafes, hotels, bars, restaurants. That's the kind of work that I did through university, and it's great because some of them will start in the evenings. You know, if you work in a restaurant, the busiest times in the evening, so get your classes, do a bit of work, see your mates, and then you can go to work. So it's not hard to get jobs while you're at university now. And then we've got from year 7, how much do you spend on food? Too much. It depends how much you eat, I think. It depends what you choose to do. Oyetola, do you have any ways of saving money on food? Do you shop in expensive shops or cheaper shops? How does that work for you?
Okay, so when I newly arrived, I don't know my way around. So I just enter any shops and make my shopping. But moving on, I had to hear from some friends that going to Howdy, you have to spend less. Going to so shops, you have to spend less. And also because I still want to have my African dish, so I decided to look around for African stores where I can buy food. And I do my shopping monthly. And I think the highest I've spent on shopping is £50. Yeah, that's the highest I've spent because I do my cooking myself. But if you are the type that prefer to eat out, you might probably spend more. So it depends on what you eat and how you eat.
I think very, very good budgeting advice. I think you should go back to university and start a budgeting course. No, really good advice. So it completely depends on how sensible you are with it. I remember in my first year when I first ever did my, food shop at higher education, and I went to Aldi and my mind was blown. So looking at these kind of ways to save money, and you do get money from, we talked about getting loans, we do get money to help you with that. So you can get something from the government which helps you with your living costs, including where you live, including your bus fare, and getting books, getting pens, all these things that you might not think that you need to pay for. Your washing up liquid, a sweeping brush, everything. You can get money to support you through that as well. Okay, so we've got, do you have a job? And if you do, what do you do? Jess?
Well, this is my job now, but in first and second year, I was also an ambassador for my uni, and I worked at a bar, and I just said to them, look, I just want to work weekends, just Saturdays and Sundays, not while I'm at uni. And yeah, that was a good income for me, and it's definitely something that you can do.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a really nice way if you do choose to move to another city or you do choose to move somewhere else. I found it's a really nice way to meet people who aren't also in a new place, but who are from that place, because they have a really different kind of experience of living there. So being from Sheffield, my experience of Sheffield is going to be really different to Oyetola's. So meeting people who are from these places can be really good. And a good way to do that is to get jobs in retail, in hospitality, jobs that fit around your schedule, that are flexible. So if we have any more questions, please do pop them in the chat. And if not, we'll probably stop the recording in just a minute, and we'll wait another minute for a few more questions. But thank you very much again for joining our final day of HEPFest, and thank you to our student ambassadors. We really hope you've enjoyed it. We do have another question. What are your hobbies at university? Oh, that's a great question. Oyetola, what are your hobbies?
All right. At my leisure time, I like hanging out with friends. Yeah, so I like hanging out with friends, and I've been to 1 or 2, 3 restaurants so far. So it's actually a fun thing where you hang out, you have discussion, even outside your education. It helps you to know each other better. Then other thing I do is go on social media. So I do that often.
I feel like that's becoming most people's main hobby. Yeah, so especially as an international student, you want to keep connected to people, definitely. Jess, what about you? Do you have any hobbies? You tried a few societies, didn't you? Do you want to tell us which one went maybe not so well?
I tried ballroom dancing. I really thought it was going to be my next hobby, and it really wasn't. I dragged my housemate along, and we ended up having to be a pair, dancing to Michael Bublé. But yeah, we both had 2 left feet. It didn't work out.
But you tried it. I think that's the main thing. The thing with hobbies is that you can kind of join societies that might match up with a new hobby or develop a new hobby. And if you have a sport that you really like playing, but you can't get onto the team because you're not very good, doesn't matter. Societies are for fun, you know, so you can develop these new hobbies, and you might try ballroom dancing and put Jess to shame. Who knows? Yeah, so lots of different options there. So if we don't have any more questions, we'll finish the session. Just again to say a huge thank you for joining us. It's been great. And yeah, we'll stop the recording now. So thank you very much.